What are the differences when you're preparing for an away game versus a home game?
For this team, away games are easier. You have to remember that Toronto has 4 players that basically spent almost 40 years total combined. Gasol played in Memphis, which is in the Western Conference. Serge Ibaka played at Oklahoma City, which is in the Western Conference. Kawhi and Danny Green played in San Antonio. So when you look at the amount of experience they have playing in the Western, so going to Oakland and playing at Golden State is not new to them. For the younger players, Siakam, Fred VanVleet, it will be. But I think for this Toronto Raptors team, it is a unique advantage that they have playing West.
Going into Game 3, what adjustments do you think, in your opinion, the Raptors have to make?
Well, I thought Coach Nurse froze up a little bit in the third quarter. He didn't call the timeouts fast enough. If you understand the history of the Golden State Warriors, they have dominated the third quarter the last 6 seasons. They've been number 1 or number 2 in winning the third quarter. If you win the first and third quarter in the NBA, you win 80% of your games. So with Golden State in Game 1, both coaches called their timeouts quickly. They didn't let one get away from each other. But the 18-0 run was too insurmountable to come back from, especially when you let them get to 12 and 16 before you use the timeout. So Coach Nurse has got to pull the trigger quickly, and they've got to do a better job on their after timeout plays, because the whole goal of calling a timeout is you create a blind spot where the other coaches won't know what you're running the other team. And they weren't successful even when he called timeout and running a play coming out. So he can improve there, but he's made really good adjustments in the playoffs. And, every once in a while as a coach, you got to bump your head to grow. So he bumped his head. Let's see if he grows.
You mentioned Game 1. Game 1, a lot of people attributed that to Siakam, but we didn't see him dominate in Game 2. I understand, or do you attribute that to like hot shooting days, cold shooting days?
No, he has a unique style. Anatomically, Siakam is superior. He doesn't get tired. So Golden State, normally even a good team, they think they can rest when they're going from offense to defense. Well, when you're going offense to defense, he's like the road runner. He's flying down, and Lowry throws him the long passes. And so once he got momentum going, it was really hard to stop. He set an NBA record for field goal percentage for a first-time player in a championship series. It was an outstanding game for a young player. But Golden State made the adjustment. It's just a matter of respect. You go through and you doubt someone, and he gets away from you, and you come back and you hold on to him real tight and make sure that he doesn't have the kind of game that he had the first game. I don't think that Siakam's performance is repeatable, because there's only been like 5 or 6 guys ever done it. So, but he can play better. I think he learned from Game 2 on how they're going to play him. I thought that Toronto got a lot tougher whistle than they got in Game 1. It was just a tougher situation, especially for a young player.
What do you think is the best way to limit a guy like Steph Curry?
Well, one, you hope he gets sick. Steph is the greatest shooter the NBA has ever seen. He and Klay Thompson together are the greatest 2 shooting guards the NBA's ever seen. We've never seen 2 young people that can shoot the basketball. But I think a lot of it has to attribute it to they grew up in the NBA family. Both have NBA fathers. The environment is nothing new to them.
Del Curry, who's his dad, was actually part of the Toronto Raptors when you were coach there.
That's correct. So Del was outstanding shooter. When I brought Del here, he was the #1 open shooter in the NBA based on Sports View. Steph definitely got the genes or something to shoot the basketball.
He's one of the top 3 three-point shooters of the NBA all time.
He's just outstanding. But Steph's threes are more dangerous than other teams, because a lot of guys make threes and the team doesn't win. So when Steph is making threes, his team is winning. And so that makes him double or triple dangerous. It's really outstanding. A player of his size, prior to him coming to the NBA, had very little chance of being successful. He went to a mid-major school, wasn't tall enough, people thought, but his character and his class and his skill with shooting the basketball and his leadership ability. Draymond Green gave an outstanding comment about, for everything that he is as a player, that he's 10 times more that as a leader to the Golden State Warriors.
When you look at a player like Kawhi Leonard, he had a real breakout in 2014 with the Spurs, which led them eventually to the NBA championship. What does he need to do now to deliver another breakout performance?
Well, I think Kawhi needs the other players to play a little better. Right now, I believe Kawhi is injured. I believe that his injury and him having to play 2 games in 3 days in the conference finals has brought back what they were hoping to stave off when they were resting him during the regular season. You know, I went back and looked at video for another NBA team on Kawhi going back to 14, 15, 15, 16. He sat out 16, 17, only played 9 games. And he was one of the top 2 athletes in the league. He and LeBron James by far were the best two-way players in the league. And both of them, one on the West Coast, one on the East Coast, were basically dominating their position. He has sustained an injury that, you know, has been well documented. But I see in the last, especially the last game, he really had trouble running back on defense. And even if he ran back on defense, now you got to go left or go right. He really struggled. So whatever the injury is, I believe that it's really being tough on him right now physically. And he needs Gasol to make some shots. That would help. And Serge to play a little better. But, you know, they've played in the West before. I believe they'll play better. Kawhi is the smartest basketball player on the floor, maybe outside of Steph Curry. So he does a lot more things than just score the basketball. He helps guys get easy baskets. He rebounds. He's just an outstanding individual basketball player.
Golden State has a lot of injuries. Klay Thompson also injured. Durant is still off. How does that affect the chemistry for the Warriors?
Well, everyone will say it's next man up, but that's not true. You don't replace a Kevin Durant. You don't replace a Klay Thompson. Guys will do their best, but there have been NBA championships that were lost because key players got injured in the finals. The Lakers lost 2 championships. Magic Johnson pulled a groin, and James Worthy pulled a groin. Detroit loses one. Isaiah gets hurt. There have been times where guys have gotten hurt right when it was time, when you can't get hurt because you're going to run out of time for games. You know, the Raptors are really, you know, 2 guys or 1 guy more getting injured on Golden State, and they should be able to take this. If it's 6 or 7 games, they should be able to take this. And I don't think Klay's going to play. I don't think Kevin Durant will play at all in the whole series. And so they're very thin right now.
Staying with Durant, I'm just wondering, how do you even bounce back from an injury like that?
Well, first of all, they haven't been clear on what the injury is.
Right.
All right. So, you know, it's like the hockey guys. Well, it's lower body. Okay, well, what does that mean, right? Is he got a groin? He got a, you know, has he torn his calf? Has he torn his Achilles? But the fact that he's actually limping in the back hallways and his injury is so severe that they won't put him on a bench, well, that means that they don't want anyone to run into him because he can't get out of the way. So I don't think we'll see Kevin Durant in this year's finals. I think he's severely injured. He's also a free agent come July 1. And so I think they're making a long-term decision on Kevin Durant. I feel bad for him because he did play a lot and play well this year, and I'm sure he wants to be a part of them winning another championship.
Indulge us for a moment. Predictions.
I think the Raptors come out in 6 or 7. All I thought the Raptors had to do, they need to win one of these 2 games. They need to go to Golden State and split and come home and win. And then they'll have 2 games to win 1. And by hook or crook, they need to win 1 game in Oakland, in Golden State's building. It's an old, loud building. It's one of the oldest buildings in the league. They don't have a hockey team. It's always built for basketball. Their fans won't be leaving to start the 3rd quarter. They'll be sitting there waiting for them. But I think that the Raptors win. I think that everything is going to eventually fall in their favor. And as long as Kawhi can stay on the floor, because he's the heart and soul of that team, I think it's going to work out.